What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So here's our final roster moves so far. We'll see if there's any changes a couple hours before the game kicks off. But as we all know, we're down 4 cornerbacks so far. This very reminiscent of, watching our tackle situation get obliterated last year, where we cycled through, I want to say, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 tackles at one point. So, as far as running through that side of things, we have Sauce Gardner. He originally was noted to have an illness, which is why he showed up questionable. Suddenly he's out for a concussion. So I really can't wait to see, what happens there, to hear Robert Saleh address that whole situation, because it's not unheard of for concussion symptoms to randomly, kind of spring on you like that. But this is like it. It's normal for the Jets and how injuries have been handled, but in the grand scheme of things, it's very odd with how all of that worked itself out. Then on top of that, you have Sauce Gardner that's tweeting out that he actually feels fine. So to be seen what happens with that whole situation. But we're down our cornerback one, our CB2 DJ Reed. Or CB1B, I guess. DJ Reed, he's out for the second week with concussion symptoms. He's actually been able to practice this week. He just couldn't clear all the protocols in time, so we should see him back next week. And then we have Brandon Echols, next man up in terms of being a starter. He's out with a hamstring injury. And then we have Justin Hardy, our special teams captain and special teams ace in general, who just had a hamstring surgery, and so he'll be out about 4 to 6 weeks with them moving him to IR. So completely different cornerback room as we see it right now, right? We have Bryce Hall pretty much as cornerback one for us, which is familiar territory for him, which is at least good news, right? It's not like he's ever seen it's not like he's never went up against number one caliber wide receivers, but it's definitely a hell of a task this week with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. We'll see how they want to mix things up, or if they want to continue to try to work A.J. Brown against him. But I'm not as concerned with that. A.J. Brown's going to eat regardless, but at least you have somebody that's experienced there. It's everybody else after the fact that's a concern. To help out with the cornerback depth, we ended up elevating cornerback Craig James, and at least he's been with us for the majority, if not all of preseason from what I recall. And then he got a little bit of a run last week against the Broncos. And then cornerback Kemontae Hayes, he's a pretty new addition to the practice squad. I think I've seen he's been with us since October 3rd. He does have 13 games of experience and just over about 200 snaps for his career so far. But again, there's reasons why you wouldn't know these names, right? There's huge obstacles in front of us when it comes to what kind of game plan Jeff Ulbrich, Tony Odom, the cornerback coach, I think / safeties coach. But how are we going to work around this, right? Bryce Hall is kind of a luxury. So it's great news at this point that we didn't trade him when we all wanted to during the offseason. But what do you plan on doing for everybody else? Michael Carter II is still going to, go out there and ball out the way that he needs to, no doubt. But it was comforting a bit that you imagine Sauce Gardner was going to be able to blanket at least one of those two options. So now the script flips a little bit from can the offense, participate in a bit of a shootout and maybe find a way to win here, versus can the defense overcome, the Eagles running up and down the field on us the entirety of the game. We've already seen some slippage, over these last couple of weeks where we haven't looked like that same number 4 ranked defense. Although you're seeing wholesale changes, right? We just need that to last the entirety of the game, which you can make that argument for, how the offense has kind of been turning things around as well. But that's going to be the biggest question mark. We already have some guys that are underperforming based on what we've seen in preseason. So just a lot of question marks. We'll see who's been prepared to step up to the table. I did love Bryce Hall commenting last week, and Jeff Ulbrich mentioning it as well, that they've been prepping him as if he's a starter the entire time. So I imagine Craig James and Kemontae Hayes, they're getting that same benefit, especially since we knew DJ Reed was out for a while. Craig James will be a little bit more of a different story, right? Because Sauce Gardner, that was a last-minute issue that got sprung on us. So we'll see. The other news is that tackle Carter Warren, he's actually been activated to the active roster. Saw 43 preseason snaps before things went off the rails, and he's been practicing for the last 10 days or so. So we'll see, right? We didn't make any free agent additions with AVT going down. And so we opted to go with some of our in-house options and see what that looks like, right? We'll see if the offensive line changes up whatsoever, but as of right now, you imagine Carter Warren's going to come in and back up Mekhi Becton at left tackle. We're going to give Max Mitchell the reins at right tackle like we did last year, and see what we can make of things, right? But this went from a game where there were some sound game plans that we could have taken advantage of for sure to quite a few question marks. The biggest thing I hope is that this cornerback situation turns itself around by next week, and we're coming up on the bye anyway, so not a huge deal. But ideally, you don't want any of these other things to linger, right? Concussions, you never know what those can actually look like. They can last a week, they can go up to a couple months, if not longer in certain situations. So ideally, we come back pretty healthy relative to what we're seeing right now. But that things can get ugly really quick for us against the Eagles, and we don't really have the luxury to hang our hats on in that secondary like we had before. So hopefully we see some guys pop off on tape and step up the way that we need them to. But let me know what your guys' takes are. Do you see some surprise contributors this game? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.